Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. We're back again with another one of the final build series. And here we go with the Magnate. Now this is the standard Magnate. As you know, Heron, Magnate, Probe, Imicus, all of them fall under the Covert Ops vessels. These are the basic forms. Now they're only good for one thing, and that is carrying, right? They counted as an industrial type ship if I am correct, but these are the beginner classes. So you can always use them for delivery ops. They quick and easy missions in the start of the game. You go, you pick up, you move to the final location. You obviously can't drop everything in a single load, so you're going to have to move it up and down across a couple of loads. Then you're going to have to complete your mission. It will take some time, but it is something that you can do with these vessels. They are pretty fast through high sec and even low sec, so you don't really have to worry about that. That's one of the few PvE things that you can do without really worrying about zapping your ship to the maximum of its ability. Alright, now I'm not going to go through much of its abilities in terms of the scan resolution, just like the Probe. It is quite fast, but it's not the very best. It does have an inertia modifier, that means it has better turning, so it is good for escaping combat. And as you can see, it's really useless other than that. My biggest piece of advice is, if you have a ship that is not weapon specific, just throw missiles on it and use that as your weapon system. The simple reason behind it is missiles don't interfere with your grid, your power requirements. They do interfere a little bit with your grid total, and overall missiles do give you a lot more comfort. They don't have that fall off range, so they don't do less damage when you get too close and so forth. You don't have to worry about things like with lasers, where you get 10 kilometers on their long range weapon with a 2% with a 2 kilometer fall off, so you have to stay within 10 to 8 kilometers at all times to be able to apply damage. If you drop below 5, you do 0. If you go beyond 15, you do 0. And that is not very good for your overall combat, and that is why I advise you to actually stick with missiles for non-laser specific vessels or any others. If I'm correct, railguns will also do okay, but they do have that fall off which can become a little bit heavy for certain types of weapons. Now the biggest ship in this class is going to be the Maulus. The Maulus you will see again later in the logistics class of frigates. I'm not 100% sure, it might be correct, but they are a support type vessel, and that's where they really shine. But this is the Tech 4 version, so let's go through it. Sensor dampener strength. Now, sensor dampeners reduce the amount of time that your ship uses to lock onto a target. It also dampens the effect of your sensors, so when you're firing, you do end up applying slightly smaller figures of damage. I noticed that when I was testing the sensor dampener for effectiveness in PvE, and it does really reduce some of their damages. It can help you with some of the more irritating vessels, but the direct weapon disruption is much easier. The weapon disruptor, the tracking disruptor, or the guidance disruptor do a far better job than the sensor dampener. Small railgun damage and small railgun optimal range increase. Now this here does improve your vessel by quite a bit, but please note that it does also come with a negative fall off, since it increases the optimal range, and the fall off will sometimes be slightly smaller than your optimal. If it gets too big, remember that you start losing effectiveness in certain close range points, and where your effectiveness drops really does affect how you fight. So be very careful for that aspect when you are fighting with this vessel. It has a 418 meters per second velocity. It's not the fastest. It's not going to give you that much of an edge in combat. These are from the Galante section, so they are more suited to armor. However, there are certain things about these vessels that make them quite good. They're similar to your lasers in the fact that they're going to use direct capacitor for charge, and their damage output is a projectile type, so they almost do instant damage like those classes of vessels. They're very good at stripping shields, and they're not very efficient at stripping away armor. So let's get to the weapons for this in railguns. Now I do personally use railguns. I would prefer to use the snub-nosed most of the time, but here we go. These are rifle railguns. Right, let's open it and let's have a look. My mistake. As you can see, 12 megawatts per usage. You have 46 total. You double it up, it's 24. Now the railgun that I will use is slightly more expensive. I use the rifle railguns on my ships because they are long-range combat, not short-range. This is a short-range combat vessel. You're not really going to escape with distance with this vessel either. It's not the best. 11 megawatts, and it does quite a significant amount of extra damage. 4-second activation time. This puts on quite a bit of damage. You have double of them. That's about 80. Increase it with the stats from your small railguns. That's going to pull you up to about a 50 damage. That's 100 per clock every 4 seconds. And you count that into 60, that's going to be a 25 hits in a minute. That is quite a good hit. And with the right bonuses and the right type of application like what you're getting with the ship, you're most probably going to be outputting around 110 per hit. So this is going to be really effective on those vessels. You're going to strip away shields very easily, and you're going to do fair amount of damage to armor. They're not the best against armor, but you will be ticking away on armor slowly. And as you can see, optimal range is very, very close at 1.8 kilometers. Remember, you are getting a bonus from this vessel, that's why it is useful. And fall off is 2.4. That leaves you right in the close 5 kilometer radius of a ship. Most ships will go berserk and not be able to stop you at that radius. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Sensor dampeners may be useful, but they aren't as useful as your standard webifiers. Webifying another small frigate will allow you to apply damage really, really quickly. Remember, you do 100 per shot every 4 seconds. Shield regeneration is about 115 every 10 seconds. And at that low rate, they're actually just below 80. So if you're going with 115 DPS, which is where this ship is counted, and you're slowing down those small ships so they're slower than you, you're going to be able to apply full damage to them, and they will get very close. So the two of you intertwining into each other at that close range, you'll be able to blast through them really effectively. Okay, so that's why you're going to use Predators instead of any other type of slot that takes you up from I think it was 12, 24, or it was 11. Okay, but we'll just go with 24 to 26 megawatts. You can obviously use the larger ones, but remember your fire time becomes increased, and beyond that, the second load of negatives to you at that point is your damage may seem a little bit bigger, but it will take longer for you to apply, and you end up with slight discrepancies in your energy regulation. Now, you will be running your energy down on the vessel, but with the engineering way it should be, you should be more stable than a laser vessel. Lasers really drain that capacitor really fast, and that is the one danger you have to watch out for. Now, in terms of your low slots, shield booster for 6 megawatts, you already were at 24, 26. This takes you up to 32. As you know, you had 46 to start with. With the addition of the last thing, which I'm going to add in the afterburner, this is where you're really going to feel it. It's 16 megawatts. I'm going with type Bs instead of with the lower class. I don't know why that keeps happening. And as you can see, 16 megawatts. I forgot to add one thing to this here. There is research for afterburners, so you should be clocking out at around 214. That means all of the other ships that I mentioned where they should be breaking 2000 or close to will break way past 2000. You can actually be somewhere closer to 2500 to 2800 because they will have about a 214 default plus the additional additions to it. The Stasher, for example, will easily break a 4000 mark with its fully applied bonus. Okay, so that's what you have for this section of the ship, and the last thing to go on is going to be combat rigs. All you're going to do is increase fire time. You're not going to try and increase effective radius. You might do it, to be honest. Give yourself a little bit more fall off accuracy. Increase it once, increase your firing time, or double increase your firing time so that you do more damage. Remember, you're already outputting about 110 every single time you fire, and if you reduce that time to 3 seconds, which is a possibility, 3 seconds across 30 seconds is 20 hits. There is quite a bit of damage that you can apply. You can actually become effective against bigger ships because they generally regenerate in around a range of about 300. So yeah, this is the first time that you can actually start affecting larger vessels with shield regeneration active, except that this is talking about PvP instead of PvE. Okay, so moving on from that, there, your engineering. As I said, speed is king with these small ships, so double auxiliary thrusters. That's not really going to make you untouchable, but it's definitely going to help assist you with staying out of the heavy fire. You might be around 600, but that's just about it. 600 meters per second, a nice solid amount of defense that's going to keep you right where you want to be for most of your combat. Okay, so that's going to be it for this build. The next one is going to be the big one before we hit the 7 major vessels for this class of ship. See you all then. Have a good day.